Welcome to Power in Politics, the show where we explore leadership, legacy, and the people shaping change in our communities. I'm your host, Jacqueline L. Malone, CEO of Blind Resistance Clothing Brand. Our tagline, For the Culture, by the Culture, represents our commitment to empowerment, sustainability, and uplifting underserved communities. This episode is brought to you by Support Excellence Media, amplifying voices, stories, and movements that inspire. From creative content to community centered campaigns, Support Excellence Media is dedicated to elevating purpose driven work. Learn more at supportexcellence.org. Thank you for tuning in. To stay up to date on future episodes, please like this episode, subscribe to our channel, and click the notification bell icon.
This episode is brought to you by the Support Black Excellence Foundation and their Support Excellence Initiative. At the Support Black Excellence Foundation, we're on a mission to foster a brighter future for all, particularly in underserved Black communities. Through strategic partnerships, mentorship programs, community service projects, and financial initiatives, we are committed to driving meaningful change where it's needed most. We invite you to join us in this remarkable journey of progress and transformation. Together, we can turn our vision into a reality. Let's shape a future that is equitable and inclusive, where empowerment, elevation, and excellence intersect to create a legacy of positive change. Thank you to the Support Black Excellence Foundation and their Support Excellence Initiative for sponsoring this podcast.
Today, we are joined by a leader whose life story and public service paint a powerful picture of resilience, determination, and relentless advocacy for community. Illinois State Representative LaShawn K. Ford is a lifelong son of Chicago's West Side, raised in the Austin community. Since 2007, Representative Ford has represented the 8th District with boldness and heart, championing justice reform, mental health advocacy, addiction recovery, small business empowerment, and the fight for equitable opportunities for all. From co-founding the West Side Heroin Task Force to leading statewide efforts on reentry and fatherhood. As a recipient of the Nelson Mandela Award for Justice, Representative Ford has been a driving force behind some of Illinois' most impactful community-centered initiatives. And now, he's stepping into a new chapter with his run for Congress in the 7th District, carrying with him the voice, struggles, and hopes of the people who shaped him. Representative Ford, we are honored to have you here today on Power in Politics. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's so great to be, on your show, Power in Politics. It's the real deal, Jacqueline. And to have you from the West Side actually carrying the message, to people all over the world about people that exist right here on the West Side is an honor to be a guest.
Oh, thank you so much for that. I appreciate you. Representative Ford, let's jump right in. Your life journey spans Cabrini Green and the Austin community, being adopted at birth by your grandmother, pursuing seminary after high school, earning a degree in education from Loyola, serving as a teacher and basketball coach in Chicago public schools, and later becoming an entrepreneur through Ford Desired Real Estate. How have these formative experiences, from your upbringing and spiritual training to your work in the classroom and ultimately your path as a small business owner, shaped your worldview, your values, and the approach to leadership and public service you carry today?
Jackie, I would tell you that the sum of who I am actually is my fight. I mean, when you think about from birth to now, what you experience, it sums up who you are and what you fight for. I mean, you said it. I mean, I was adopted by my grandmother because my mother at the time was, a teenager and born in Cabrini, but I had a lot of love from my family. So between having the untraditional type of family upbringing, but a family of love and a village that actually helped raise me, and a grandmother that sacrificed everything to give me everything that I needed to be who I am today is amazing. And it's a testament to my fight in politics. It's a testament to what life could be for other people that might not see the promise that they may see in other people that may be their peers. I think that just having the opportunity to bring my life experience to politics that helps me fight for those that are in the struggle in our community.
I completely understand what you're speaking of. And it's wonderful. And it's interesting how our extended families, like our grandparents, are such a pivotal uh, measure in our lives. And I'm so thankful to your grandmother for raising such a wonderful man. So
Thank
you
you.
have done a wonderful work in our community, and very, very proud of what you stand for. I am a small business owner, of course, and having two businesses and a partner in another. How did becoming a small business owner shape your understanding of economic opportunity, family stability, and the barriers facing so many residents?
As a small business owner, was the first in my family to start a business of my own. And so, in order for me to understand what businesses go through from starting the business to running the business has been very helpful in my understanding when talking to um, business owners as a legislator. I know the struggles that it takes to start one, to scale it up, as well as to maintain it. And my experience takes me to the understanding that you cannot expect to become a millionaire overnight. You know, a business, when you start it out, what I tell people that talk to me about advice, the business that you start is a job, but it's your business. And you're going to work harder. You're going to miss lunch. You're going to miss breaks. You're going to miss all those things that you would have as a employee. You don't get that as a business person, because if you're dedicated, it's a it's a it's a lot of work, and you should not expect to become super wealthy overnight. If you ever become wealthy, it may be a business that maintains your lifestyle, which should be enough for some people. And some people only want a small business that will pay them enough to live a comfortable life. And so people have to understand why they're getting into a business and the process of building up a business. And that's what I try to make sure I encourage people to not go into a business with a get rich quick mentality.
Very great advice there, because that is the truth. I know I have spent many a nights uh, up to 5 in the morning, going to sleep and spending a couple hours sleep, back up again, and several missed meals. So you are speaking truth, and it is more costly in the beginning than you're bringing in, and you have to learn the difference between it being a hobby and an actual business. So planning is very important there too.
And when I started my business, social media wasn't a real big thing. You really had to pay for press. You had to pay for media. I think people that are starting businesses today have an advantage of social media. It's free for the most part, and you're reaching people in their hands. You don't have to wait for a paper to be delivered or a report to be issued on the news or some outlet to deliver your advertisement. You can advertise at a heartbeat. And so I think that people got to realize that having a business and being successful today is challenging, but it comes now at a time where it's a little easier if you put the work in. And you got to know that no one knows your business exists if you don't tell them. And I find that a lot of people think that people are just going to knock on their door and support their business when people don't even know that you exist. So tell people about your business everywhere you go.
Yeah, I spoke with Dr. David Sanders. I'm sorry, Dr. David Sanders of Malcolm X College, and he was saying to me, "You got to tell somebody." He's like, "You can't be the only one knowing what you're doing or your plans, and you have to tell someone." He was speaking more in the sense of when he would go down to Springfield and pitch his ideas for the school and things like that, but that is something. I was very much like that, what you described in the very, very beginning, years and years ago when I started my first business. And I thought that. I'm like, oh, they're going to come running. Oh, this is great. And I put this thing together. No one came knocking. You had to go out and market that thing and understand there's a slow um, upcycle to different levels. So I've learned a whole lot from the first piece now to where I am today. So I've
Mm.
made those corrections and
Yeah,
things like
somebody created what you call this idea that you say, build it and they will come. We took that to a different level.
that. They do not come. So they do not come, and that includes not only just public but family too. And folks, your friend, they really don't come.
No.
So I mean, you have to have a thick skin and really just be passionate about it and serious about it, and um, just your people will come. Your folks will come over time, but you have to really set a strong foundation. So
And Jack, can I just say this? I
yes.
think it's also important to note when you're in business, all money is not good money.
Oh,
You know, there are some people that you just don't want to do business with, and you should not try. I think that God will bless you with the right customers, the right clientele, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to do. Those family members and friends that don't patronize the business, it's probably for the best because, and it's just one of those circumstances that could turn out to be not good for the business. And so work hard and make sure that people know that you exist, and the right customers will come. And don't be upset when you lose that deal from a cousin, because that might be one of those deals that you didn't need anyway.
absolutely. That's very, very good. Let's step into public service. Amongst the many accomplishments, you decided to step into public service, being elected to the Illinois House in 2007. What inspired you to run for office at that moment in your life?
I think your show speaks volumes. Power in politics. People must know that politics play a crucial role in everyone's life, regardless to your profession, regardless to your lifestyle. Power and politics are working, and we have to recognize it. And I recognized that early on. I knew that even down to getting the streets cleaned and the garbage picked up, it took power in politics. You had to call the alderman, you had to call the ward superintendent, your precinct captains. All of that was politics, just to get your garbage picked up, just to get the alleys clean. But you had to have a relationship, and you had to be able to say that you are a voter and that you will vote your best interest. And politicians listen to that. And I saw the power of politics in my upbringing and in my career as a teacher, how you are able to move our democracy and make it bend towards your needs as an American. And so I believe in our democracy. I believe in what our democracy could do. And so as we talk today, I know that many people are aware that much of the democracy that politics have been able to pull together is under threat by the current administration in Washington. So I think that people need to be engaged. They need to fight and they need to vote. Some reports say over 90 million Americans with the right to vote didn't vote in the last presidential election. And that's unfortunate because those people that didn't vote probably need an administration that's more caring today than we have.
Absolutely. And I love how your notifications are dinging just when you're hitting right on the spot. But it's like ding exact. It's perfect though. It's absolutely perfect. Um, Great answer though. Great answer. Now, almost 20 years later, how has your purpose evolved as both a legislator and community advocate?
You know, over the almost 20 years, I think I've learned that the power in politics and the work that you do is all strategic and it's about relationships and patience to get things done. Um, what you find most challenging when you get into office, you go in believing that you're going to snap a finger and change policy that should be changed. There's no doubt that much of the fights that we have, there's no doubt that many of the fights that we have today are necessary, but it takes time to get it done. So going in, you figure, oh, we're going to change the way we fund education because it's the right thing to do. We're going to change the way we treat people that have criminal records because it's the American thing to do. But it may be good in your lens and in the communities that you represent, but there are many people that find it not acceptable for their agenda. So process and understanding how politics work in our democracy is important. And so I've learned that it's all about building collaborations and fighting with people. That's how you get things done. And that takes time. It takes relationship building, and it can happen over a period of time. But newcomers, they start from a place of, not having those type of relationships. So I think that what you call seniority in politics really help.
Yes. And that makes sense because when you're first coming in, you're so passionate, you're eager to go, you want to make all these changes, and then you get these disappointments because you get all these immediate roadblocks that you don't realize, oh, there's a process, there's red tape I have to go through. It literally is politics that I have to play in this.
You know what? I would tell you, Jackie, one of the things that I've learned as a politician, as an elected official, sometimes there are unintended consequences to what we believe should happen and how we believe it should happen. So I'm a firm believer in listening to both sides, all sides on issues to get it right. Because I've sponsored legislation and had it passed the way I wanted it to pass, there would have been unintended consequences for a few of the policies that I actually wanted to pass in the present form. But then when you bring on the lawyers and you bring on the advocates, they come forth and they say, well, we need to tweak this because if we don't, here are some consequences. So that's important to understand that you have to listen to everyone through the process, Democrats, Republicans, advocates, and people that are just taxpayers.
Yeah, and it makes sense to do so because it's what makes up our country, and even the world, because the decisions we make here impact somewhere else and vice versa. So it is important to be all inclusive in that and to understand all sides. And it just makes you better at what the programs, initiatives you're putting together, and you yourself as a politician, as a leader, you understand the whole dynamic of a thing versus just being singular focused. Let's go into education and youth development. Now, you mentioned a little bit about that. I come from a family of educators, attorneys, and business owners, and your background as a teacher gives you a powerful perspective in Springfield. What education issues feel most urgent to you today and why?
Oh, man. You want to hear the issue that is the most urgent for America? That
Mhm.
is accurate history.
Oh my
Teaching history accurately. Many people talk about making sure we teach Black history. Oh, let's teach accurate American history. That's causing more problems in this country than the literacy rate, because you got so many people ignorant about who they are and their contributions to America, how their contributions have helped or hurt the progress of America, how the history teaching has really allowed for one group of people to feel superior over another and one group of people to feel inferior to another group. It has impacted the way our news is delivered, our movies are portraying people, and the way we interact with one another because our history is not accurate. That's the big problem. I mean,
Right. And now you have the removal of correct history. So that
well, I mean, you're right. You got the removal from this administration about the history that we know about enslavement.
right.
That's unbelievable.
All from our museums to our books, the education being defunded, all of these things. But I am a firm believer in the Lord Almighty that this will come to an end. All of these things that we are suffering through right now, it will end. It will not have legs to stand. And so I believe all of those things will come back and more, and we will be fine.
You're right. I think we will be fine, but the power in politics is the key. That is the key, the power in politics, because the only reason why the current administration in 2025 is in office is the power in politics. The people that voted for this administration actually came out to vote overwhelmingly believing in his politics. And they believed that America was going in a direction that wasn't good for them. And so they came out to vote. And guess what? They're finding out right now that these politics are not good for them, what they voted for. I actually was talking to a constituent where they are a Trump supporter, or they were, and they're a business owner. And because of the policies of this administration, their health insurance is unaffordable. They got their new bill for their 2026 coverage, and it went up by almost $1,000 a month because the act will expire at the end of the year. And because of that tax credit expiring, that passed on to the buyer of the insurance, the small business owner that's not a part of a job that provides them with the health insurance, they have to pay it. So now they're at $3,500 a month to
Hmm.
pay for health insurance for their family. Who can afford $3,500 a month as a small business owner living on the west side of Chicago.
Ding.
I thought I turned that off.
I'm telling you, these dings are on time. You might want to keep that. No, you're absolutely right. And what happens is you lose your health insurance because you cannot sustain that. I am struggling with that myself. So it's a lot. And then you're speaking of your mortgage, if you have one, on top of that, your property tax on top of that, it you it's almost like you're on welfare at this point.
No, it's almost like you'd rather be on welfare.
Or at least you know you have that coming in. Well, maybe because he's trying to cut all that.
Yeah, you're right, because this administration is also cutting SNAP,
Right.
cutting Section 8, cutting, all of the health care for people. So this administration is hurting everybody,
Everyone.
you know.
Everyone.
So I
Um,
guess he's not hurting the top 1% because there's this big transfer of wealth that is happening in America, largest transfer of wealth in our lifetime. And so when you think about where the money is going, when you cut health care for families, when you cut SNAP benefits for families, when you cut housing for the homeless, and you cut services that are safety net programs, you're cutting them so you can save money to transfer the wealth.
you've been a leading voice on reentry and criminal justice reform. Was there a moment or person that made this work deeply personal for you? And what do you see as the biggest barriers to successful reentry? And then, what programs or policies in Illinois do you believe are making a difference, or ones in which you are advocating change?
Looking at the community where I live in Austin and having family and friends and neighbors being impacted by the criminal justice system and the challenges that we face as Black people in America when we are saddled with criminal records, whether it's convictions, arrests, it's one of the greatest American fights that we must have to end permanent punishment for people. I've seen the impact and the destruction that our justice system has had on Black families in a disproportionate rate. They talk about the 1994 crime bill, how it destroyed families and communities. We talk about how the war on drugs destroyed families and communities. And there has been an admission that these public policies have actually destroyed communities and families. And so part of being in politics, part of the power of politics is to change what we see that's not working. And when you have people telling you every day that they can't find a job because they have a felony from 10 years ago, or they have an arrest record that prevents them from getting a job, you have to do something about that. It's serious. And you hear it mostly from people that were disproportionately impacted by the criminal justice system. And that's been my, reason for fighting to end permanent punishment in America, because of the impact that it has on a family, on a community. Many men are saddled with permanent punishment that sort of takes them out of the American dream or makes it harder to be in it.
Programs and policies in Illinois that you believe are making a difference to those barriers, or which ones are you um, advocating change for?
The first bill that I passed as a legislator in 2007 was to ban the box on job applications, making sure that if a person was convicted of a crime, they didn't have to answer the question, yes, I've been convicted of a crime. That's unnecessary to have to answer that question for a job. If the job wants to hire you, they could do a criminal background check and decide whether or not they want to hire you or not. And so we passed that, and the governor Quinn helped make it the reality. That's banned the box. Then we went on, and I changed the law for sealing of felony records. I expanded the right for a person to be eligible to get their felony sealed in Illinois. That's a big deal because Illinois was the first state to allow for felony records to be sealed. It doesn't allow for it to be expunged. That's my hope, that we will eventually get to the point where a person could get their record expunged and it be done away with. Right now, being sealed simply says that you will still have that record sealed and only law enforcement could see it. Only banks could see it. And so expungement means it goes away.
Yeah, I love that. That's really, really wonderful because if you have served your time and you are in the community as an appropriate citizen, because you have changed. I mean, sometimes people go to jail for or prison for different reasons. Sometimes it's not because they are innately this horrible human being. There are different circumstances for different people. And so I love the opportunity for them to have that uh, reentry into society as actual citizens. We actually advocate for voting rights as well for
Hmm.
formerly incarcerated individuals. And this is a big deal too, because a lot of times these folks are not even told that they have the right to vote after prison. So it's important that they understand their rights all the way around and the opportunities that are afforded to them.
Well, that's one of the bills that I've been fighting for some time. That is to allow people in prisons to vote. I mean, why do you take away the power of their right to vote? That's unfortunate. So it's very difficult to pass that. I've been working with advocates to try to change the policy to allow people to vote. And in Illinois, many people don't know that if you have a felony, you could vote. People can vote with felonies in Illinois as long as you're done with your sentencing. So if you're off of probation, parole, you could vote. And that's what
Yes,
people should know.
absolutely. And that's exactly why we are working with Chicago Votes. Actually, is a nonprofit. You know Chicago Votes?
Absolutely. That's the
Yeah,
team leading the fight for voting in prison.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Yes, we've partnered with them on one of their series to talk about that from the youth perspective as well as from the adult standpoint. So yeah, they're doing amazing work in advocating for that and going into the prisons, and they're really on the ground floor doing a wonderful job there. Let's talk about the mental health, addiction, and public health, and this is where we'll get to the Heroin Task Force. So you've co-founded the West Side Heroin Task Force and have long fought for expanded mental health and addiction services. Can you tell us about that program and where the biggest gaps are still showing up and what needs to happen next?
Well, the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force came because, there's a huge problem with availability of heroin on the West Side. It had been labeled the part of the West Side, the heroin highway, where if you go on the 290 expressway, people would say that people would get off at Central or through, and they would come onto the West Side to get their heroin all the way down in Lawndale. And people were dying at alarming rates, higher than any community in Illinois, of heroin overdoses. I've had people in my own family struggle with a substance use disorder. So it was pretty much my life, as we talked about earlier. The sum of my life helps shape what I fight for. So having people that I care about dearly overdose, struggle with substance use disorder, understanding the challenges that people have trying to overcome addiction, living with addiction, and how it treats our community, or how our community is impacted by it is what got me to bring together a team of people to form the Westside Heroin Opioid Task Force, where we were able to and continue to go out and educate people about um, harm reduction and teaching people about Narcan, the drug overdose reversal. And so it's been a life-saving task force with great volunteers and team members passing Narcan all over the west side and the south side of Chicago. And you talked about the challenges still facing us.
Mhm.
I think we still see the need for more behavioral health support for people. We need to have more housing for people that are struggling with substance use disorder, and employment, and ending permanent punishment for people that actually are almost unemployable because of their past criminal records. All of these are symptoms that lead to some people self-medicating. And so just being human with our brothers and sisters and our neighbors, making sure that we have a more humane society for people will be helpful. And recognizing that some people wish that they could end their substance use disorder, and we should be there for them.
Yes, I agree. In your expert opinion, as one who has led initiatives in these areas, how can policy shift to treat addiction and mental health challenges as public health issues rather than moral failures?
The way you shift the policy is you treat it as a public health issue, much like you treat people that struggle with diabetes, or people that struggle with asthma, or people that struggle with cholesterol, or all blood pressure. You treat it the same. You give them the same medical attention that's needed to treat a disorder. That's one. Two, you don't treat them like criminals, where we have a system where people that struggle with substance use disorder are seen as criminals, and that a use of drugs is a criminal act, criminal behavior, which for many it's not. It's an addiction that they cannot overcome, as we all wish that they could, and quick as we would like for them to, but it's not easy. And so we have to have an understanding that these are not criminals, and that we have to help them along the way.
Mhm. Very good. Let's move to economic empowerment and minority owned businesses. As chair of the task force on minority owned businesses, what progress have you seen, and what systemic barriers still limit growth for entrepreneurs across Illinois?
Well, I mean, you see a lot of Black owned businesses now in Chicago, and not as many as we used to, but we do see Black owned businesses. And as a legislator, I've helped appropriate funds to support small businesses in Illinois, grants that are passed out and awarded to small businesses. But I think where we have a difference in businesses, first generation businesses, people are starting up for the first time. They don't have money that their families handed them down. They don't have a second generation business. And that should be noted, because when people start a business, they shouldn't be discouraged, because many times really successful businesses are passed on by their families, and they've been successful. They've weathered the storm, and they have a strong foundation. They have great name ID, and people know about them, whereas new businesses don't have that. The other problem that drives me to Washington is the fact that businesses are not able to really go to a bank and borrow money to scale their business up. Banks are not lending the way they should. The SBA is a challenge. Small Business Administration is a challenge, and there are a lot of people in our communities that have great business ideas that could be successful if they could get an infusion of money. But banks are not lending. And we need to change the Community Reinvestment Act to put a little more teeth in it, to require banks to really consider qualified business entrepreneurs so that they can scale up and do business in their communities. Because the CRA right now only require banks to do business in neighborhoods, and they can satisfy their CRA simply by opening up bank accounts. That's not enough. We need banks to invest in our communities, and that will help um, create jobs and drive down violence in communities, because when you have strong businesses, thriving communities are most likely safer communities.
Absolutely. All of that.
Mhm.
Some people feel that the federal landscape is increasingly hostile toward minority owned businesses. From your perspective, what's happening and what changes are needed to protect economic opportunity?
Minority owned businesses can't be in a community alone, an island by itself. So there has to be a combination of power in politics, working with community to create business districts. Like on the west side, we got Soul City Corridor, where there are businesses coming to the west side, Chicago Avenue. The more businesses you have in a community, the more successful each business will be. And so there must be a plan. There has to be assessments in communities to see what communities need. And banks and communities should work together to make sure that there are ways to open up those businesses. I mean, think about it. People still use dry cleaners. And you would go into communities where there are no dry cleaners, and you people still need um, groceries, and you're going to communities where there are no grocery stores. People still need bars where they could have events, restaurants where they can have events, and you're going communities where they don't have. And so every successful and vibrant community have needs, and banks and communities know what's needed. And so full assessment of these communities are necessary to make these communities vibrant. And banks have to be a part of it. And the government has to be a part of it. And so when you have public private working together to develop communities, you'll see a change. So think about this. There are some businesses that will not open up in a neighborhood if they don't see a certain climate, business climate. They will not open up or even consider opening if there's not a plan to bring more businesses along with them. So some grocery stores will say, we will come there if you bring this. It's the way it is. I mean, and I feel sympathetic for people that spend their life savings in a community, believing that um, they could make a change, and then they can't because the community can't support them. The community won't support them. People won't come from outside of the community to support them. And you need all of that to be successful.
You do. And you're absolutely right on that. And let's talk a little deeper about your community. Tell me about the communities you represent, and what does true economic empowerment look like on the West Side and beyond? Because it's more than just the West Side, Austin community that you support.
I represent the West Side, Austin, Oak Park, Berwyn, LaGrange Park, North Riverside, and and when you think about Austin, many people go outside of Austin to a vibrant Oak Park. And, being a representative of LaGrange, I could go downtown LaGrange and look at how beautiful their business climate is. It just doesn't happen in certain communities like Austin. People struggle to open up their businesses. I know that we just had a great announcement of 40 acres fresh market, but that's a lot of work that's put into that business. And I hope that people support it. But, it's not a business district, and we're working on Seoul City Corridor to be a business district so that more people come and shop at the stores. But it's a challenge when you have communities that struggle with a vibrancy that brings other people outside of the community to come shop. The only reason why downtown does well is because people from every community goes downtown to shop. The only reason why the mall, is say Walmart is successful, or the other places are successful, because people from every community go. Until we could get people from Oak Park coming to shop in Austin, people from Berwyn coming to shop in Austin, it's going to be a challenge for these businesses, because people from Austin go to Berwyn, they go to Oak Park, they go to LaGrange, they go downtown. But people from those communities don't come to Austin to shop.
It is a battle there. I will say that when there Austin is on an uprise, though there are several changes, maybe some redevelopment happening. The education and the community colleges are expanding, especially colleges like Malcolm X, which is doing wonderful. And we do already know that education is going to lower crime, is going to help bring more businesses, hopefully, because maybe the people that go to those schools will come back to the community and service it. So I think you're absolutely right in that. But we both know that there is, again, it's all politics.
You said
It's the
something
most
strong.
money.
Yeah, it is politics. But you said something that was very strong. It all starts with making sure that we have high quality K through 12 in these communities. That's what's going to drive the community to be more vibrant. I mean, when people know that they have the ability to send their kids to a high quality early childhood program and a high quality high school program, then people coming.
Yeah, I mean, because you can, where Austin is, you can cross the Austin Street and go right over to Oak Park. What a difference!
Yeah, and that you should not see it that blatant. And and
Right.
and you know what? Austin is so beautiful. It's got perfect transportation.
It does.
Its housing stock is just fantastic, and yet we're cheated out of high quality education in this neighborhood.
Yeah. And I think it goes a lot deeper than what we can tackle on this podcast. We both know that. And it goes back systemically, you know? So, but I do believe with the mayor and you, leaders like you two in place and fighting for the community, that it is going in that upright uh, pattern. So that is really, really good. Let's talk about public safety. It's often described as a complex balance. How do you approach supporting law enforcement, reducing gun violence, and strengthening community based violence prevention at the same time?
Fairness and justice in the system. I mean, arrest the criminals, the hard, violent offenders. Let's not waste any time on putting people in jail for drug addiction, and do everything that we can to put the hardened criminals away. Also, stop the flow of drugs coming into the neighborhood, making it easier to be a drug dealer than to go out possibly and find a job in the real market. Um, you know, stopping the guns from being so accessible in these neighborhoods. It's easier to get a gun in Austin. It's easier to buy drugs in Austin. It's easier to become a criminal in Austin than it is to become that in our neighboring communities.
Mayor Brandon Johnson had mentioned something about how guns are, and not all of them, but there's a high amount of guns that are being dropped off, in that neighborhood, coming from Indiana and so forth. So we have to consider that if these are neighborhoods, I don't like to use the word poor neighborhoods, but if it's a limited growth neighborhood, how do they get that? You
Right.
know, how do they get the drugs? Where do the guns of that caliber come from? So we have to consider all of that that is against the neighborhood too. Let's jump to the fatherhood initiative. So tell us about that initiative and why supporting father is such a critical part of your vision for strong, healthy communities.
Having two fit parents in a child's life is important, whether you have two parents that are still together or not. There has to be the best interest of the child. And I think that parents should recognize that once you bring a child in this space in the world, that their well-being is priority. And so watching how a child that has a missing parent, whether it's a mother or a father in their life, I see the impact, the negative impact that it has on a child's life. I mean, children are very sensitive. Just think about it. As a teacher, I remember how when it was report card pickup, when you had two people come in to get the child's report card, kids are proud of that. When you have opportunities for family functions and you have two parents come, kids are proud of that. When you have father daughter dance, kids are proud of that. And to eliminate that type of opportunities for people through government is bad.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the program, the initiative of fatherhood is so needed in our community and beyond. And so I just appreciate the work that you're doing there. And then let's talk quickly about the run for Congress and future. So in 2025, you announced a run for U.S. Congress in Illinois 7th District following Congressman Danny Davis's retirement and his endorsement. Congratulations on that. What prompted this decision, and how do you see your next chapter?
I think my next chapter as a congressperson will take some of the initiatives that just wasn't possible as a state legislator to change. I mean, it's very hard to end permanent punishment in America at the state level. It's very hard to change banking regulations at the state level. Most of those are done at the federal level. It's very hard to fight for and protect voter rights at the state level. It's very difficult to protect healthcare for all people, having a real health care system that allows for everyone to have healthcare in America from the state level. You need to have a strong relationship with the federal government to help states. And I believe that my knowledge and understanding of the need to have a strong advocate and legislator in Washington and a fighter, I think that that's something that I bring, and I have relationships right now in Springfield that will be partners to help bring more money back to Illinois, partners in Illinois to help fight for health care for all, fighters in Illinois to help fight to change the way the Voter Rights Act is being eroded, fighting to make sure that we are able to change the banking regulations and ending permanent punishment. I mean, I think that, the experience that I have and the relationships that I've built will do well in Washington as a congressman.
That's great. And those are all top priorities that we really need. And additionally, how do you plan to expand your impact nationally while staying grounded in the neighborhood that you shaped, or that shaped you, I should say?
Oh, I think that keeping it all local is very important. I mean, you have to go to Washington to fight with people, and you need people that's going to help propel that fight. And you know, keeping politics local is what's necessary to be successful in Washington.
And what do you wish more people understood about public service, especially young people considering leadership roles?
I wish people would understand that it's not a snap of a finger to bring the change that's necessary. That looking at me, you got to know that I don't want to see homeless people on the street. I don't want people to be denied loans when they qualify. I don't want people to be denied human dignity in America. And I think that people have to understand that there's power in politics and people have to be engaged. And I believe that our government bends to the fight. And you cannot just expect it to happen, you have to make it happen. I think Lyndon Johnson told A. Philip Randolph, if you want this voting rights and if you want these civil rights achievements, you have to go out and make me do it. He knew he had a Congress that was going to be against it, but he wanted the pressure. He wanted people to force Congress to vote for voter rights. He wanted people to force Congress to understand the value of having civil rights as a law of the land. And he told them, go out and make me do it. And so I wish people would understand the genuine need to have real fighters for justice in America.
That's wonderful. And how can residents connect with your office or participate in upcoming programs and initiatives?
Well, you could go to LaShawnFord.com as the state legislator, or you could go to FordForCongress.com.
Okay. And if listeners could take one action today to strengthen their community, what would you encourage them to do?
Well, if you are a voter already and registered to vote, vote. And if you are not registered to vote, register to vote and encourage other people to vote. I would say do everything that you can to have the highest voter turnout in your network, in your community than any other network and community. I would have a vote challenge in my community because the communities that vote tend to have more power in politics.
Great answer. That's a wonderful answer. And I hope folks listened
Thank
to
you.
that. And finally, what legacy do you hope to leave behind?
Oh, a legacy of hard work, dedication to democracy, and a fight for justice.
Wonderful. Representative LaShawn K. Ford, thank you for sharing your journey, your convictions, and your vision for a stronger Illinois and a stronger nation. Your story reminds us that leadership doesn't begin at the podium. It begins with lived experience, compassion, and a commitment to lifting others up. From the classrooms of Chicago to the State House and now toward Congress, your dedication to justice, public health, and community empowerment has made a lasting impact. We thank you so much for your service.
And thank you, Jacqueline Malone, for giving me power in politics.
You're welcome. To our listeners, remember real change begins when you show up in your neighborhood, your advocacy, your wellness, and your civic engagement. To learn more about Representative Ford's initiatives, programs, and congressional campaign, visit LaShawnKFord.com or follow his updates through the Illinois General Assembly. If today's conversation inspired you, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with someone you know. Big thanks to our sponsor, Support Excellence Media, for helping us spotlight voices that truly matter. I'm your host, Jacqueline L. Malone, and this is the Power in Politics podcast, where leadership meets legacy. Until next time, stay empowered, stay involved, and always remember, real change begins with us, within our communities. See you next time.